One.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Simply Engineering, the show where we dive into real stories behind engineers shaping our world. I'm your co-host, Temi.
And I'm your co-host Harith and Harthi. And every week we sit down with students, professionals, and innovators to talk about their journeys, challenges, and what it really takes to make it in the engineering world.
Today's guest is
Hey guys, my name's Tom. I am currently a fourth/slash fifth year mechanical engineering student at McMaster University it's mechanical engineering and management. So I should be done in about a year and a half from now. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem,
Pleasure.
Tom. So let's start from the beginning. So what first got you interested in engineering?
To be honest, I first got interested around, I believe, seven. It was around 7, 8 years old. The first thing that actually inspired me to strive towards this field was bridges, to be honest. I remember when my parents and I back home, we would take long journeys to go see my grandparents, and we would cross the major bridge in Lagos City, Nigeria. And I was always fascinated about how it worked and how I was able to withstand multiple cars, like hundreds of cars, and not crumble. So I would ask my dad or my mom, typically my mom, since my father was driving, hey, how does this work? Who does this kind of thing? And talk about it's engineers and stuff like that. So from that age, I was pretty much dead set on, okay, this is kind of something I want to get into. I kind of like the idea of it. I like the whole concept, trying to understand how these kind of things works. So yeah, so when you're asking me what drove me to be an engineer, the second answer would just be bridges. Like I was just always fascinated about bridges growing up,
Yeah.
to be honest.
But what made you specifically choose like mechanical out of all types of engineering?
That's a great question. So to be very frank, by the time I was in my first year, so how McMaster works is first year in the engineering program as of 2019. I think they still do that now though, but so you have to take general engineering. So essentially, everybody does the same thing no matter the field you plan on going into. So you kind of wrap your head around what you decide to go into. And after I finished that year, second year is when you're supposed to choose what you want. And at that time, I was doing some research trying to see, okay, what's the longevity of civil, which are the people who deal with the bridges of structural and stuff, right? And I realized, okay, while yes, that was what I was trying to do for the longest time, given the whole advancements with technology and things like that, I just feel like it's of course it's not going to be completely dead in the water, but there's a potential, right? That it just makes sense where a lot of things they do can start getting done by machines, right? So part of the reason why I chose mechanical was okay, as a mechanical engineer, you're essentially supposed to know a little bit about everybody, right? Like for example, you take electrical engineering courses, you take chemical engineering courses, you take you can even take engineering physics courses if you so wish. Your job as a mechanical engineer is to essentially understand a little bit about everybody else. So you're kind of the term the jack of all trade and master of none. So
Yeah.
that's why I picked this field. It's why I picked mechanical engineering. I was thinking, okay, since since I now decided civil was not something I wanted to do, given the volatility of it in the future potentially. Let me
Mhm.
just pick the one that's most general,
Yeah.
and then I pick management to also bolster the degree, I guess. So in case I want to go into
Yeah.
business
Okay.
potentially.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Like, I like how you bridge the gap between your own curiosity and like your passions in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you know how many people like would say that mechanical engineering is like one of the hardest courses, and some people confuse it to be just a general engineering course. What do you think of that?
Okay, it's a lot of things there. Yes, it is actually one of the hardest courses. I believe at the moment, to my understanding, the only engineering program that is arguably maybe more difficult, honestly, probably is the engineering physics degree program. Yeah, like that's probably the only engineering program I believe is more difficult than mechanical.
Mhm.
So yes, while mechanical is technically jack of all trade, master of none, it still has core concepts like stress and strain regulations, stress and strain calculations. These are things that typically the other engineers don't really do. For example, electrical engineering delves more into components like solenoids and things like that. The um, nuclear engineers deal more in the volatile liquids. Chemical engineers do a little bit more math and chemistry, to be honest. So that leaves mechanical engineers to be the ones who are actually dealing with all the forces, how much stress is material allowed to go under before it completely collapses. And that's where you have stuff like your FOS, your factor of safety. How do you calculate your factor of safety? These are all the things that mechanical engineers do. The only other field that might touch on this a bit is structural, maybe, but now those guys do it only mostly concrete or I believe building like construction stuff.
No.
But for mechanical engineers, they go into it in every aspect, mechanical stuff, buildings, like everything. So that's why it's a bit, that's why I believe it is, even though the most general, it's still more difficult. Because like I said, you're expected to know a little bit about everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Even some people believe like this is something also I believed. I believed going to mechanics will help me stay away from coding. Because personally, that's probably like my weakest link. I know some people don't really struggle with it, but I have struggled to completely comprehend a lot of some coding languages. So part of the reason I also picked mechanics too was to avoid it, but I still can't avoid it. As a mechanical engineer, you're supposed to know and understand MATLAB. So you're expected to know it pretty much a little bit about everybody. You can't avoid anybody in this field.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard.
True.
Yeah, I relate to you honestly because me, I've done computer science before, and to me, like, I really, really hated it. And so that's another reason why, like, I kind of like was gravitated towards like engineering because like I didn't really like coding. But just a quick question: who was like your biggest influence or like a mentor growing up, like in terms of engineering? Like, do you have like a certain like engineer or scientist or something like that that really inspired you?
Or not even just specifically engineering, like
Yeah.
as a person or career wise, who like had a big influence in your life?
Okay, if I have to, I can answer it both ways, I guess. If I have to pick like a celebrity, now a
Uh,
lot, this guy gets a lot of flack, but probably be Elon Musk, to be honest. Was doing a lot of things, making a lot of waves with his cars, his whole SpaceX project. But yeah, that'll probably be for celebrity wise. But I'm not very much a social media kind of person, so I don't spend too much time on it. So yeah, but if I had to pick somebody who I know personally who was a huge influence on me, it'd probably be one of my aunts. She was the one I actually went to when I was battling which specific engineering program I want to delve into and what might be the best for me. Kind of held my hand through trying to research, okay, since you understand what's going on with civil and the potential drop off in the future, like maybe you can delve into this field that's a bit more general so you could go into any of these other fields if you decide to focus on something else and things like that. So yeah, it was one of my major influences was one of my aunts, who actually is
She must be a
also,
great aunt.
yeah, she's also a mechanical engineer,
Yeah,
actually.
great aunt, great aunt.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. Wouldn't
Yeah.
change her for anyone else in the world.
Yeah. Just like another quick question, like throughout your university, you said you've been in usually for around 4 years. You're a fourth year student, right?
Yes, yes.
Was there any like projects or specific experiences or during co-op that like also made you like fall deeper in love with engineering?
Hmm. There, yes, actually, there was one. It was the first year project. The first year project. So I mean, this was technically, I mean, no, it's not NDA, but we had a client in first year where this person had dystonia. I'm not sure if you guys know what that means. It's essentially someone who has trouble with muscle contractions in maybe multiple parts of the body or one specific part. So this individual had trouble with their hand, right? So the task given to us was try to create something that would make this person's life easier. That was it, right? They didn't actually try to hold her hand or anything. That was the project. This person has dystonia. They can't really control the muscles in their hands. Make something that will make their life easier. And I found it really interesting because we kind of came together, brainstormed a bunch of stuff. First year at that time, it was, I was finally getting into the field and it was super exciting. I drew a bunch of sketches about what we could make. But then we ended up doing something pretty simple. We made which is true, which is also a good thing. Like simplicity is important. If you guys heard of, I think it's Warren Buffett. I think one of his
Yeah.
quotes is, if you cannot explain something in simple terms, then you don't really understand it or something like that.
Yeah, I
So we
know.
just
That's my
made
favorite quote.
yeah, we made a simple spoon. Essentially, just had a like a roller on the top, like a lid she could turn, open, and close it, right? So whenever she was trying to, let's say, eat a bowl of soup, and she's trying to bring the spoon to her mouth, she can just have the lid closed so it doesn't spill out as she's bringing it towards her mouth and open it. when she's trying to eat it, right? So we just made something very simple, and I really loved that project. Honestly, it was really fun to try and make something that, we felt, oh wow, this person might actually use this for, I don't know, maybe a couple years before it wears out and something like that. Like it was a good feeling to actually help an individual, even though I was like a first year student. It was nice. Yeah.
That's honestly interesting to be honest, because I personally I've been wanting to like apply to engineering courses, and I've been looking at the modules. Like I'm not exactly sure like what to expect. For example, like in the first year and second year, many people just tell me that first year is just really easy and you can just skim through it, and the second, third, and fourth year are the most important. But like you open my eyes like about this project, and it's not always exactly how it seems and how people
Yeah.
make it seem.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any advice for like any person who is like listening to other people's opinions about the first few years of university, or the like first few months of university actually?
Okay. Good question. If I had any advice, it'd be take it with a grain of salt. Everybody's journey is different. Like, for example, you mentioned people told you, oh, first year was super easy. It's second, third, and fourth that are the hardest. That wasn't my personal experience. In my experience, the hardest year was first year. First year essentially is the year where I don't know how it's done in other universities, forgive me, but that's the year McMaster weeds out majority of people. Like, for example, after my first year, 70% of us dropped out. 70%. So first year is the year
Wow.
where Mark decides, okay, are you a quitter or are you ready to actually brute force this? And that's how they weed out most people. Now, second year, it's a bit more smooth sailing. It's not as difficult. It's a bit more, okay, just a little bit. They test your knowledge a bit, give you a little bit more information about stuff. Then third year is very neat. The nitty gritty is where you do engineering mechanics, all the hardest, difficult stuff. And then fourth year is where it goes back to status quo, right? Things are easy again. You just want to do your capstone and graduate, right? So for me, that's how it's been. It's first year hardest, second year okay, third year second hardest, if not hardest, and then fourth year is back to smooth sailing. So it's all a personal experience. Like to be honest, like there'll also be people that will tell you, first year was the easiest for me. Like it's all up to interpretation, to be honest. There's no set in stone reality. So my advice is take it with a grain of salt. Just put your best foot forward. Put your best foot forward.
Mhm. Now, that definitely is some great advice because I can already see that like today in school, like when people say math is hard, some people won't say math is hard. But other than that, like other than just engineering in general, like what do you do for fun, to relax and cool down?
Okay. Well, my pastime honestly is, I guess, sometimes I go out with friends. Very rarely though. Most times I'm hanging out with friends, we're just gaming. Maybe we play Apex Legends or along the lines or this new game like Marvel Rivals. That's what I
Yeah.
do for fun. Sometimes I go to paintball shooting places. Yeah,
Okay.
just unwind a bit. That's kind of how I pass
Mhm.
my time. I used to play basketball. I haven't in a while, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
extracurriculars pretty much.
Yeah. No, that's nice, nice. I used to play basketball too. I think I was pretty good, if I say myself. What about you?
I played for like my high school back home. I was playing power forward. So I mean, I was just playing defense. That was my job. Just make sure they don't score.
Okay, let's move on to like your education and
Mm. Yeah.
your university life. So I have a question for you.
Oh shoot.
Uh, During university, I believe you've done like internships and
Yes,
co-ops.
yes, yes.
How did like those internships and co-ops like help you like better understand your like course and see how you can apply it to the real world?
That's a very good question. So my co-op was actually a bit it wasn't directly under mechanical engineering, but essentially what I was doing made me work with mechanical engineers, if that makes sense. So I worked at Bird Constructions as a junior project coordinator. And so essentially when you're in the construction business and you're working under a general contracting firm, you work with all the engineers, structural, the electrical, mechanical, I'm forgetting one specific one, the Forgive me. But yeah, you work with pretty much all the different engineers that come into play. The guys doing the sprinklers, which is used typically on the mechanical. The HVAC guys, typically on the mechanical. And one thing I did learn about it was the amount of, to be honest, the amount of work that goes into building these facilities. Like, maybe I'm not saying that people think it's easy work, but like you'd actually be surprised how much coordination is required. Everybody needs everybody to pull their weight. Like, for example, I can just a really simple one. Let's say the sprinkler guys are on holiday
Hmm.
now, and we need to close the ceiling. We need to put in the bulkhead. We can't do that. Now the construction place is on hold for until these guys come back, things like that. Everybody needs to hold everybody's hand. And it was really interesting to know that and understand that even though I'm a mechanical engineer, I probably can't do my job without all these other guys, right? We have to all work together. And I also learned a few things like some terminologies that I wouldn't have learned otherwise, like stub frames and stuff like that. Like and things like that like it ends up being used in like courses like heat transfer and things. And it's like, okay, I remember them talking about this when I was on my co-op. Good thing that happened, you get those little feelings here and
Yeah.
there. It's like, oh yeah, this was mentioned. I remember this when I was in my co-op and stuff like that.
So it's like
Yeah, it was,
you have a real world example of what you're learning, right?
yes, yes,
That's
pretty much.
pretty cool, I kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, so just to ask you, like, what's one skill you wish like engineering schools emphasize more that they don't really like teach that really applies to, like real like a work experience?
Practicality, practicality. I do believe um, a lot of universities actually do a fair amount of practicals, but I still think like some courses are way too theory based. Like for example, engineering mechanics is it's a kind of course where more practical examples would be really great because it's also like I mentioned one of the most difficult courses you'd have to take as a mechanical engineer. So being able to visualize things in that course is super important. And if I recall correctly, the way it's done in McMaster is that specific course is the combination of two other courses in other universities, and they expect you as a student to just excel at that, right? So essentially, what I'm saying is, other universities split that course into two, and Mac makes it just one course, and you have to just absorb all the information, right? So that's what at least something I want to change it back. There's a bit more practicality for that specific course, so it's easier to understand and not because some people have a bit more difficulty visualizing, right? They want to see it. They want to actually see that in action, see that with their eyes. So things make a lot more sense, right? So a lot more
Yeah,
practicality. If that makes sense. Yes.
yeah, that makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. So, you probably have worked on like a lot of projects, right, during school. Was there anyone that's like specifically like a favorite for you that you would like really would want to do again or?
Okay. My favorite one was probably the um the robot one. I think this was mechanical engineering 3CO3. Oh no, it might be in 2BO3. I can't recall. So it was one where we were supposed to, I mean, not really make a gear train, but we were supposed to design a robot that would walk a certain amount of distance. And to do well in the course, you have to cover that distance in a certain amount of time, right? So my job in the group was to make the sketches. I made all the sketches. And I think it was another girl who was doing all the coding. I did some coding as well, but I left the coding for someone else because, like I said earlier, that's honestly my weakest link. I just suck at coding, so I just it's like someone else needed to do that because if I did it, it probably wouldn't have turned out too great. But yeah, it was a really fun course. Actually, seeing the whole project come together, I'm seeing us. I think I still have the video on my phone. I seen us record the robot moving little by little as it got to the end. That was probably my favorite course. I'd do it again. Yeah,
That's
If you
pretty
don't mind, what was your grade in that course?
I think I got a B plus, if I recall correctly.
cool.
It's
Okay.
B plus.
Okay.
Decent. I have a question, but it's more on like the technical side.
All right, fair enough.
Uh, like in your university,
Yep.
do they like the tools and softwares or facilities that they provide?
Yep.
Do you believe that that has aided your like education and your understanding of engineering, specifically mechanical engineering?
That's a good question. The thing is that depends from teacher to teacher. Some teachers are really good at helping connect the theory with the practical, where they give you a lot of videos so you can then watch it or not watch it up to you. I would advise watching it, of course. And then some of the applications available, like we have free access to the entire Microsoft suite. We have free access to a lot of what's the word for this? Databases where you can research data and like find I mean like marketing things like that. As a master's student, you have a lot of access to a lot of sites that you would have to pay for. Where like for example, IBISWorld is a site that tracks almost everything that goes on from every business to every kind of firm, every kind of engineer. They have probably even information on the average income of an engineer in Canada. Like they have information on everything, but you would require to pay for it. You'd be required to pay for that. But as a master's student, there's just so many resources given to you that if you don't look for them, you just wouldn't even know they're there. Because that's something I do think Mac does well. They do the Mac library suite is packed. There's a lot of things they have there. In terms of things I wish they would add, I'll be very honest, I can't really think of anything. I think if you're a McMaster student and you need access to a site that would help your studies or help your understanding of your studies, it's probably there. You just need to find the right person to ask. You probably have access to that.
Hmm.
So you
But
think,
to ex oh,
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 so
okay,
go ahead.
yeah. Okay, to expand on that, is there like one tool, software, like a machine, like you couldn't live without as like a student or as like an engineer? For me personally, probably like ChatGPT. I don't know about you, Harith, but I think ChatGPT helps me a lot. But yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, McMaster doesn't give you access to ChatGPT. But I mean, I'm
Oh,
sure you understand why,
Yeah.
yeah.
academic dishonesty and things like that. But something I think we get access to that is great is AutoCAD. If you're an engineering student, you should be able to get your AutoCAD for free. AutoCAD is a software where you can essentially create 3D models of anything you want to conceptualize. You can create simulations, you can
Yeah.
create control systems and things like that. Yeah, that's probably something I don't think I could have lived without. Because
Okay.
you could even argue maybe MATLAB is another one, but like I don't like coding. I don't care about that. AutoCAD is way more fun. Way more fun.
All right. I think we're gonna now ask you some questions about like problem solving and some creativity, get our brains thinking, critical thinking.
All right, all
So,
right.
so have you
So,
ever like had a project that kind of like just failed, like just completely failed, and like what did you learn from that?
okay. Um, hmm. Okay, in the engineering, okay, so I'm doing mechanical engineering and management, right? In the engineering
Mm,
section, personally, I haven't had a project that failed. Like, as engineers, you go into the project expecting to come out with something worthwhile. 'Cause that's just how engineers think, right? You want to make sure at least you come out of this with something good. Like nobody wants a failing grade, right? But if I talk about the management side, it's where things have actually gotten a little bit closer to, oh boy, this is kind of rough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not making a blanket statement. I'm sure there are a lot of very studious business individuals in universities. Just sometimes I come across a few where it's trying to get everything together. It's kind of hard. But yeah, I mean, regards to something that actually failed, I don't really have anything. Even the marketing one I'm mentioning was just on the cusp of it, but I was able to kind of put my foot down and try to get everybody to stop being unserious, right? Because I didn't want to fail the course. So
Okay.
yeah.
I just wanted to like go back to the question about like tools and whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what do you think of AI's role in engineering and how it had aided you possibly?
Okay. Regards to Chat GPT. Now, I will be very frank, as a mechanical engineer, Chat GPT has not helped me much.
Oh,
The thing is, when let's say you give it like questions to solve, right? Because
yeah.
you're not sure how to go about it. ChatGPT is very good for giving you an idea of how to go about it, right? Like you can look at how it solved it and then realize, okay, this formula makes sense. But 90% of the time, you don't want to rely on their solutions. You just do it to get an idea of what you're supposed to do, and then you have to do it yourself. Because with almost utmost certainty, if it's a complicated engineering question that, let's say, it has to do with engineering mechanics, the AI will get it wrong. It almost will always get it wrong. So you just use it to try and give yourself the idea of what you should do.
Why do you think that is though?
To be honest, I don't know. Like I'm not sure why the AI always gets it wrong most of the time. It might be just maybe it's like
Complexity
a
issue?
bit too, yeah, maybe it's the
Yeah.
complexity of the question where, because sometimes I would actually look through the whole thing and solve, right? And realize that, oh, this thing just made a multiplication error here. Like
Yeah,
its thing was on track, like the steps was good, but then there was a multiplication error that throws everything else out the water and everything's just rubbish. And that's something you can't really, you don't want to make that kind of mistake as a mechanical engineer, right? Like people's lives are on the line. Most sometimes when you're making things, like let's say you
yep,
make a calculation error with your factor of safety when you're building something, and then because of that, God forbid, the building collapses, right? And like you just
Yeah.
you need to be almost perfect with what you're doing. You don't want to
exactly.
Yeah.
make mistakes like that. That's why I would advise any engineer, don't be over reliant on ChatGPT for your answers. Just use it
But
as like a rule of thumb to just like,
Mhm.
okay, let's get an idea what's supposed to happen, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So for like the last question, we're going to ask a little bit of a fun question. So, as a university student, you're still in school, you do exams and everything.
Yeah.
What is like, I'm not saying you personally, but like what is the most like advanced way of cheating you've seen in like school?
The most advanced way of cheating I've seen. Uh, okay. Like to be honest, I haven't really seen super advanced stuff in what they call it in the exam hall. I feel like in the exam hall, because there's like invigilators everywhere, man. Like there's almost no way to do anything like
Yeah.
a little bit frivolous. Like, for example, these guys are so steadfast in how they do it. Like if you have a pencil case, they won't let you have it there if it's not transparent. If you have a math set, right? If your math set is not transparent, it must be open, and there must be no papers inside of it. If you have a head, let's say you're wearing a headset, take that off. If you have a hat on, turn the hat to the back. They want to see your face. They want to see what your eyes are looking at. Like if you have an electronic watch, take it off. They only want analog watches. Do you understand what I'm saying? So trying to cheat in a mock exam is super hard. But like during COVID though, I would grant well people coming up with very, very what's the word? Creative ways of cheating. People were
mm,
getting on Discord calls and doing the most lavender shit while they were trying to cheat mid exam. It was crazy. Like COVID was honestly wild, but
Yeah.
after COVID is gone, it's like, nope, none of that. You can't risk it anymore. And the thing about cheating too is, even though some people, I mean, I've seen some people have like talk to themselves mid exam, like, yeah, that's happened. I'm not out here trying to snitch anybody, but it's like, that kind of situation is gonna happen regardless. If people are friends and they sat next to each other, yeah, they'll probably talk, right? But people
yeah,
tend to respect themselves because they don't want to
Yeah.
get caught. In McMaster, if you get caught once, you're liable for expulsion immediately, no questions
Mhm.
asked. So
Wow.
you gotta be careful, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree.
just
So I know.
a
Oh,
final question, just to before we get to the what's it called, the fifth grader section.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask, what advice would you give the next generation of engineers? Just to keep it brief.
Okay. My personal advice to next generation engineers is honestly keep finding something to honestly strive for. I think we live in a society where things sometimes feel doom and gloom. So just keep finding something to strive for. And maybe, who knows, man, you might make something that changes the world. I mean, you never know. Who knows what the
yeah,
future
true.
holds, right?
You never know. Yeah. So my favorite part of the podcast, smarter than a fifth grader. So I'm just gonna ask you a rapid fire questions in 1 minute. We'll see how many you get right, and we'll see if any other like future guests can
Can
beat you.
beat
So
your record.
can
All
yeah. So
right.
are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. On your marks, set, go. What law explains why airplanes can lift off?
Is that log 16?
Wrong. Next question. What is Ohm's law formula?
Oh, no way, I don't remember this. It's K square. Oh my days. Skip that one. Skip that one.
Yeah,
I
you
have a
ready?
textbook
Okay,
like
okay.
that.
Next one. Next. Okay. What process removes impurities from metal ore?
I just think this one sec.
Are you using ChatGPT right now?
No, I'm not.
We just talked about cheating,
No, I'm not using it.
huh?
26 left
Metal
in the
ore.
clock.
Sorry?
20 seconds left.
Okay, just go next. Go next.
Oh,
Dang, I
okay, okay.
forgot that.
What device converts chemical energy directly into electrical energy?
Is that no, it's not a potentiometer. No, no, that's not it. Go next, go
That's
next, go
it.
next. It is
Time
a
zero,
potential emitter?
man. Time zero. The answer was battery. The answer was battery. Well, I just want to say thank
Oh,
you very
that's so
much, Tom.
obvious.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Yeah, no
yeah,
problem.
yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank
All
you,
right.
Harith, too, coming here.
Pleasure to
All
be
right,
here.
Tom, thank you very much for
Yeah,
your time. We really appreciate it.
yeah.
And
Thank you to the viewers.
we hope the audience would have learned something because me personally, I learned a lot today.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
that's a close. First
Thank you.
episode of Simple Engineering. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. All right. All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.